I'm like, it's literally a color.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hello, 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 and welcome. This is Her Talk Show. My name is Sabrina Victoria, and I have Tara here with me. We're going to be talking all about how to build resilience in order to unlock your boldest dreams. I want you to get comfortable. We're going to explore the triumphs, the challenges faced by women worldwide. Tara is here to offer some insight, some inspiration to fuel not only your professional, but also your personal growth. So let's jump in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
If you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We're here every day. We delve deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women, probably close to 700 at this point. And today we are adding another one to the list. We have Tara here. She is a TEDx speaker, a resilience expert, and founder of Hey Girl, You Can, a global community empowering women to build confidence and achieve success. With over 27 years of leadership experience, Tara combines mindset strategies, real life stories, and actionable steps to help women turn challenges into opportunities. As a certified life coach and author, she inspires women to thrive in business and life. Oh, welcome, Tara.
Yay, I'm so excited we're finally talking. I know we've had this for a while.
Yes, girl. Thank you so much for being here, for hanging out with us. As you know, the community that I lead is women business owners, and we're always looking for ways to improve, right? Ways to create that ebb, that flow for ourselves so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming in one way or another, right? And so I love that you're here. I love that you're an expert in this. And I think resilience is a word that scares women.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. Why?
Yeah, well, in the circles that I'm running in, resilience sometimes has a connotation of like the hustle culture. And needing to move real fast, get over things really fast, move really fast, and kind of get over your past and be strong, be powerful, versus giving time to relax, giving time for the calm.
I have so many thoughts. This is fascinating to me.
Yeah, giving time to flow versus always being so go, go, go and in the masculine energy. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you've built resilience and how that's helped you.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to give you my nerdy fun fact. I was the president of my Latin club in high school. Not really like first date information, but I love words. And I love words because I believe that words are very powerful. I'm a Christian. And so I believe that, God created the world by what he said, and we are made in his image. So when we say something, we create with what we say. Right. And you can be a Christian or not, but talk about manifestation, the universe, like what we say is really powerful. So I do believe words have energy. And so I've never heard this before. So this has me like really thinking, because that's not. So let's talk about what resilience is. And I actually looked it up while you were talking, because I want to make sure I give you the exact, actual root of resilience. So I think part of it is a misunderstanding of what the word means. So resilience comes from the 1620s, and it means the act of rebounding or springing back. It actually means, can you rebound? So if you kind of picture a, like those little weighted clown toys that you had when you were little, and they had the weight at the bottom and you could punch them and they would bounce back. And you punched them and they bounced back, and it didn't matter how hard you punched them. You could literally sit on them, but as soon as you got up, it came right back. It kind of sprung back. That's what resilience is. It's that no matter what life throws at you, even if you got knocked down, you can spring back. You can pick yourself back up. So it is powerful. It is powerful. It's not hustle. Hustle is an interesting word. It is a word that I do not use. And if you've ever felt a little weird about that word, I'm going to tell you probably why that is. Because energetically, the definition, the root word of hustle is actually thief. A hustler was a thief. And so when we talk about, I just need to hustle, particularly when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? Is that really what you're trying to do? So if you've always been like, that word feels a little funny for me, that's probably why, because there's something in you going, I don't really don't want to be a thief. So resilience has nothing to do with hustle. It has nothing to do with speed. It has nothing to do with masculine energy. What it means is when you get knocked down, and that could be life or that could be business, do you have the ability to get back up? And like, I'm a mom. And so when you talk about where did I get resilience, I got resilience because I went through a horrific domestic violence divorce. At the same time, my only daughter had high risk stage 4 cancer. And my daughter was like literally dying in an emergency room. And while I'm in the emergency room, finding out my daughter is dying of cancer, my ex-husband, I was in the middle of a divorce, his attorney is on the phone being like, we're removing the mother from the hospital. He's going to come exercise his parenting time. My ex-husband, who was absolutely crazy, trying to kill me, and I have multiple restraining orders from. Okay. So talk about like life trying to knock you down. Right. And so I think one of the things that I teach and where I, yes, I have gotten like the credentials and stuff like that, but really it's because of what I went through. It's the life. I think there's a lot of people who teach theory where hopefully I can teach from like real life. Like, I started a business when I was 20 years old, and in business, and you guys know this because you're entrepreneurs, you get knocked down a lot. You get disappointed, you get clients who cancel on you, you get people who no show on you. We were talking about before, Sabrina and I were talking about when you work with women, you like that's a whole emotional roller coaster. And I really feel like I had 10 years of that experience before I went through this horrific season in my life where I had learned how to bounce back. I had learned how to handle disappointments. I had learned how to, compartmentalize, control my mindset. You can't be having a crisis over here in business and then get on the phone with a client and bring that crisis. You have to learn how to control your emotions. So then I go into this life crisis, and I had a toolkit of skills, right, on how to be resilient and how to bounce back. I don't think it's how hard it is. I mean, I will tell you when that season ended and my daughter's 19, I always have to remember to tell people because they're like, did she live? Yes, she's 19. And I thought, oh, I will just get right back to business. I'll move right back up into my career like that. And that did not happen. It was years. It was years of grief, of processing that trauma, of being kind to myself, of realizing I'm not the same person I was before I went through that. So I don't think it's a speed, but I think I'm not going to let other people, I'm not going to let life, I'm not going to let circumstances knock me down and keep me down.
Mm.
And I will tell you that once you can learn to be resilient, you become unstoppable and you become incredibly powerful and a little dangerous because nobody can stop you. And I think, my daughter's an only child. She has no siblings. Cousins aren't really close to her age. And obviously I'm her only parent. And, I talk to a lot of moms groups and we talk about that. I've often thought about this. If I only had one skill that I could give my daughter before I die, right, that she's going to be left with, what would it be? And it's not work ethic. It's not confidence. It's not any of those things. If I really think of what's most important, I think it's resilience, because I want to know when I'm not here that whatever happens in her life, throughout her life, whether it's job loss, a divorce, an illness, a natural disaster, God forbid another pandemic, like no matter what she goes through, she will be able to pick herself back up. She will be so powerful. That is what I want my daughter to be able to have, because you can have confidence, but if you get knocked down and you can't get back up, oh well, you're confidently lying on the floor. You can have work ethic, but if you get knocked down, you know what I mean? So it kind of really all boils down to, and I do think that we have a culture currently where a lot of people don't have resilience. They just don't. And this is why we see women who start a business and quit a business, because they get knocked down a couple of times and then they think, oh, this, this wasn't for me. And no, it probably was for you. You're just building a muscle. Oh, and this is the other really cool part about resilience. The only way you get resilience is to get knocked down. So I don't, do you exercise? I don't exercise. I feel like everybody in Florida exercises.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's why you're all like so healthy and happy. So I'm trying. I'm really trying. It's just not my thing. And my body is at an age where it's like, you better make it your thing,
Yeah.
But the way you build a really strong muscle is you have to work it to a point where it actually tears. Like the muscle fibers tear, they get broken down and then they rebuild stronger. That's how you get a muscle, right? Well, the way you build resilience is you have to get broken down a little bit. You have to get a little torn up in order to rebuild so you can be stronger.
Absolutely.
You know, and we live in a world where nobody wants to get hurt. We don't want our kids to get hurt. We don't want to get hurt. We want to protect ourselves from getting torn up and broken down.
So the question that's coming up for me with this, just thinking of our listeners, thinking of the audience right here, is how long should somebody give themselves to stay in a state of victimhood? Because so often, especially when you're first starting to build this muscle, right? And you're learning like, oh, you know, I have to reframe my stories and the things that are happening for me are good for me. When in the future, you know, it'll help me in the future. When you're first starting to learn this and you're coming out of the victim mentality where you're used to being down in the dumps for weeks, months, sometimes years, wallowing in the victimhood mentality, there's this balancing act of like leaving your old mentality and moving into a new mentality. How long can somebody give themselves? How long should somebody give themselves?
Yeah. So
When
I
you're
think,
speaking to your clients and they're coming to the realization of like, oh, Tara, I'm actually getting this. I'm actually like slowly comprehending what you're saying. And I'm still sad. And I'm still mad. And I'm still bitter. And like, you can't expect me just to rebound the very next day. Like, this whole scenario, whatever it is real messed up. So like I deserve or I need time. What is your thought process? What is your opinion? How do you guide or work with your clients through that conversation?
yeah. And I it was interesting because when I first heard you asking this, the first thing that I heard was like, how long should somebody stay there? And the instant thought I had in my head is there's no right or wrong. Right? There's no, you should be like this, right? But I also, and I looked down, if you guys know, because I use my little word dictionary, and it's not the regular dictionary. It's called an Entomon-like dictionary. It's where root words come from, like the original, not what they say that, but what was the original energy of the word? And I looked up victim, which I've never done, which is interesting because we use this word victim a lot. And I looked it up and I was like, wait, I don't think I actually know. And this is interesting to me. So a victim. So if you want to think, if you're a victim and you want to stay in your victimhood, I just want you to know what you're choosing. Because this is where I think there's not a should. It's not a right or a wrong. I think we just have to be aware of what are we choosing. And so this comes from the mid-15th century. And it's a quote, sacrificial animal, living creature killed and offered as a sacrifice to a deity or a supernatural power, or in the performance of a religious rite. So my question would be is, how long do you want to be a sacrificial killed animal?
Love that.
You know, because I don't think that choosing, so, you know, when I have talked about this quite a bit, when my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm in the middle of this crazy divorce. It was a horrific season. There was so much that happened. It was just wild. I never had the thought, why me? I think a lot of people, when you get into victimhood, we think, why me?
Absolutely.
Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Now I've had moments where I've said that. So, you know, I have moments of, what did I ever do to deserve this? Right. But I didn't really stick in when my daughter's in cancer and all of this of like, why me? Because it really is, I'm going to say this gently. It's a very narcissistic thought. The thought is, why me? Why not you? Why shouldn't you have a kid who has cancer? Why shouldn't you be the one who gets divorced? Why shouldn't somebody else have to have this trauma? Why should I have to have this? And the reality is that life is sometimes really crappy. Life is sometimes really hard and bad things happen to really good people. And it's not fair. And you probably didn't do anything to deserve it. You probably did absolutely not, like you probably did nothing to deserve what happened to you. And it just sucks that it did. But there is no power and there is no purpose and there is no benefit of sitting in a why me. Why not you? Why not you? Because life hurts people, good people. I didn't deserve to go through what I went through. You know, when you hear most of my story, and I don't talk too much about my ex-husband, I mean, I literally had like a Lifetime movie. I married somebody who was a complete fraud, didn't exist. Made up trauma, made up jobs, made up the wedding announcement that I have, a school that didn't exist. I mean, it was literally like finding out I had been living a complete lie for almost a decade. It was horrific. I didn't do anything to deserve that. I was a really young, innocent girl who got married with the best of intentions. But to sit there and say, why me, why me, why me, it doesn't serve you. So what I will tell you what helped me move out of feeling just like why, like what's happening to my life into a place where it didn't make it better, but I got better. So let me say that my circumstances didn't get better. I got better. And I know people don't like this, but I'll tell you what worked for me. This is what changed my life is I started a gratitude journal every night. And I remember sitting in the hospital with my daughter and she had just been diagnosed with cancer. I was dealing with craziness. They were told, and they did tell me in the hospital that the likelihood was she was probably going to die. This was not like she has cancer and we're going to help her get better. It was like, you better come to terms with the fact that your daughter's probably going to die. I had just signed on to be a spokesperson for a company that had gone through months of negotiation. It was going to help me financially get back on my feet after my divorce. I'm in the hospital 48 hours. I should not laugh. I still laugh because I just can't believe how ridiculous this is. The nephew calls me of the owner of the company. The owner had, I don't remember if it was a stroke or a heart attack, massively just dropped dead. And he was just calling to let me know that the project was going to be put on hold indefinitely. And I was like, what? And then my insurance dropped me, like all in the span of like 4 days. And the hospital calls me Sabrina and they're like, so your insurance has dropped you. Apparently this was a pre-existing condition and we'd like to know how you plan on paying the bill. And I was like, literally, I'm like, I don't know. What's the bill? And they were like $96,000. And I had been there like 3 days. And I was
what
like,
do you mean a pre-existing? What was
because I had gotten divorced and in the middle of the divorce, I had to pick up my own insurance. And so we went from like insurance that we had as a family to me just getting insurance for me and my daughter. And so the insurance company said, oh, well, she had cancer for months before it was finally found to the point where she was dying. So they were like, oh, clearly she's had this cancer from before we switched the insurance. I'm laughing now. It was not funny then. It was horrific.
Wow.
But yeah, so I'm like, I will have to get back to you on that bill. Like literally, it was just, and so I knew, and if you've ever been in this space, where you just feel like everything around you is just falling apart. Like literally, You just feel like one thing right after another, right? We say be really careful. I never say things come in threes because I don't want to bring threes, right? But we've had that moment where like everything just feels like it's falling apart. And I did know from all the work that I had in personal development and growth mindset that our reticular activator at the base of our brain seeks out what we're looking for, what we're thinking about. And I was like, if I continue, and I'm sorry, I'll get emotional. It was a really hard time. If I continue to keep focusing on all of these things that are falling apart, I'm literally going to be psychologically and subconsciously seeking out more things to prove this to me. And if I want to change this, I have to change my mind first. Like I have to change my thoughts first because your thoughts change impact your actions and your feelings and everything. And I was like, I have to change my thoughts. And so I remember my daughter was literally hooked up to all these machines. She was this little teeny, in a bed. I sat on the end of the bed. She was sleeping. And this was back before Facebook was like Facebook. This was like back in like 2009 or 9 maybe. So do you remember, for those of us who are really old, Facebook literally, it started with I am, and you wrote in what you were doing. Like, I am eating an apple. Like there were no videos, there were no pictures, there was nothing. But it had a little note section where you could take notes, like a little journal on Facebook. And so I thought, well, I'm going to start journaling on here just to be accountable. I'll be accountable. I'll show up every day and I'm going to do my little, journaling. And I listed 19 things that I was grateful for. In a hospital room, sitting across from my daughter, who they told me she was going to die. And it was literally stuff like, I'm grateful that my mom was here in the hospital with me. I was grateful that my cousin was an oncology nurse who worked in the hospital next door and she could talk to the doctors about all the stuff I didn't understand what they were telling me. I remember one, right? I was like, I am grateful somebody invented coffee. That is what I am living on at this point in my life. And And sometimes I would be grateful for really big things, like a good test, a good that. One time, a friend of mine, she was like, "What do you need? We'll bring you whatever you need to the hospital." And I was like, "Honestly, I need tweezers. Like, if you could see my face, I just need tweezers. Can you bring me tweezers?" And I was just so grateful she brought me tweezers. And then one was, I also remember this one time I was just like, I'm grateful that a day is only 24 hours because I legit do not have any more in me. I need it. Like, I need to go to sleep and be able to start over. I cannot go like, if I had to go another hour, I don't know if I could. And so a gratitude practice is like yoga. You can't go in and do the same 3 poses. You're not going to grow. And a lot of people, they do a gratitude practice, but what they do is they write down, I'm happy for my health and my house and my mom and my family and my kids. And that's like going in and every day and being like, I'm going to do the same 3 yoga poses. You don't grow. It was like I had to find things that day in the last 24 hours to be grateful for. Like, what happened in the last 24 hours? And I did it every single night. And it literally changed my life. And so it's what helped me move from, if you want to say victimhood, or in just a place of despair, I would say. I don't know that I felt like a place of despair. I moved from a place of despair to a place of like, wow, even in this hellhole pit, there's actually still a lot of beauty. There's still a lot of things to be grateful for. I don't know. I loved how you said, Sabrina, the idea that these things are happening. I think you said I heard you say like for my good or something. I don't know that I was really like, oh, this is all happening for my good because, this is all working for me. I don't think I ever thought that. Like, let's be real. Like when you're going through something really traumatic, like who's thinking, oh, I'm so glad this is happening for my good. I can't wait to see how I'm going to grow. Right. You're like we're not like, like that would be pretty evil to yourself. I do think that when you're on the other side, you can say, here's what I learned when I got knocked down. Like if you picture that clown and you get knocked down, what did I learn while I was laying down? How did this make me stronger? What were the quote gifts? And I learned a lot, and there were a lot of gifts that came out of that. Would I ever want anybody to ever have to go through that? No. Whatever happened to you, like, and I don't mean you, but like if you're listening, whatever happened to you, I would never want somebody to have to go through what you had to go through to get what you learned. I don't think that you deserved to have to go through that. I don't think it was fair that you had to go through that. And I hope that you can say, at least if I had to go through this, if I had to do this, at least I can say, well, this is what I got from it. And if there's something small that you can take away from that, then hopefully it gives it some meaning. But I don't think it's about like, oh, I hope horrible things happen to me so I can grow into a strong person. Right. So there's no timeline. There's no timeline. And I will tell you, my daughter's now 19. There are still things that I have to work through or deal with. When you go through something horrible, it changes you. Now, hopefully it changes you in some really good ways. But there's also stuff like, I've had a lot of physical stuff that I've had to deal with because after my body had been like this for so long, it like crashed, and I'm still trying to work on like getting like my cortisol level balanced and all those things. And it's been years. So I hate the idea that there's pressure to move through something at a time that fits other people's timelines, or that there's something wrong with you if it's taking longer for you to process. I do think it's a choice of how long do you want to sit? How long do you want to lay down? Like, again, I like the clown. How long do you want to lay down? How long do you want to lay down for? And if you're like, hey, I want to lay here for a year. Okay. Like who should judge you for wanting to lay there, right? If that's what you want to do. I think the problem is when you're like, I don't want to lay here anymore, but I don't know how to get back up. Right? That's where it's like, okay, I'm laying here. I know this isn't serving me. I know this isn't helping me. I've been wallowing for a while. I need to get back up, but I just keep laying here. That's, I think, where there's a bigger issue. And that's where having like people like Sabrina in your life, people who are going to be like, let me give you some tools. Let me teach you how to get back up. That's where I also think it's helpful to hear other people's stories. How did they get back up? For me, truly, truly gratitude changed my life. That was part of getting back up. And it was a lot of like mentally choosing what I was going to think about. I would, every time I would get like nervous, I would get afraid. I think my daughter's going to die. They keep telling me she's going to die. I would picture, they told me that the kids who made it to the end of treatment, which wasn't a lot, but the kids who actually got through the end of the treatment, 7 out of 10 of them would survive. Okay. So 7 out of 10 would survive if she could get to the end of treatment. And I remember I used to lay there and my thoughts would be like, so like, Satan's trying to attack your head, get into your brain, like make you afraid. And I would think to myself, why not me? Why not me? If 7 out of 10 kids are going to survive, why not mine? I mean, somebody is going to be number 7. And I would picture 7 little kids lined up in my head and my daughter being number 7. And I would think there's going to be 7 kids who are going to live. If 7 kids are going to live, why not mine? And I think that's a great question. Like, we want to say, why me? But why not you? If someone's going to write the next bestseller, why not you? If somebody's going to start the next biggest podcast, why not you? If somebody's going to build a business that's going to change the world, why not you? Like, somebody's going to do it, right? Like, think about it. Nobody ever ran a 10-minute mile until somebody did. And now everybody does, right? But somebody's going to, so why not you? If like you have this dream in your heart, it was put there for a reason. So why not you? Why not you be the one who changes things? Why not you be the one who changes your family's, wealth? Why not you be the one who changes the mindset of your children? Why not you be the one who impacts your community? So I think that was the mindset I took more, not why me, but why not me? Why somebody's going to live, somebody's kid's going to live. Why not my kid? Right. And I would just think that over and over and over and over in my head. And there's a lot of different tools that I used, but those were 2 that probably served me the best.
Love that.
I don't know if any of that's helpful.
I do want to real quickly, when you were talking about the bad things that are happening and being in a mindset of, how is this going to help me? And individuals maybe not so much so being able to be in that mindset.
Yeah.
You can. So I am at that point now, right in the middle of the shit hitting the fan, and very much. And I think a lot of it has to do with my business. The business that I run is all around storytelling. I think our stories are our most powerful attribute that we all have. And I believe that our most relatable stories are our most powerful stories. So right in the middle of some shit happening, I very much am in the mindset of this fucking rocks. Because this story is just going to amplify, because I know how resilient I am. I know that I'm going to make it on the other side of this. So like, how freaking awesome that this shit is happening to me right now, because I'm going to get through this shit and I'm going to be able to use this story to even more so empower the women within my community. So it's kind of like on the other side, a little fucked up.
So I'm curious though, do you think, because that's really cool, do you think that you can do that now because of the stuff that you had gone through before, where you did have to pick yourself back up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I talk about, is I'm very aware of my capabilities. And I've gone through so much shit in my life that it's like nothing. There is like, I'll even go through stuff in my head of just the most fucked up shit that could possibly happen. And I'm like, dude, I could make that work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember,
your muscle's strong. That's what I'm thinking. Your muscle is strong.
Yeah. So to your point, and for those that are listening live right here, there are so many different levels of which, so staying in the victim mentality or being able to reframe, it isn't just like one or the other and I have to pick one side. There's so many different levels of which you can sit on that are healthier than wallowing in your victimhood for years on end.
Yeah.
So just
it is, right? Like that word victim. Now it's going to really stick with me. I never looked up the word victim, but that's a really heavy word. You were killed. How long do you want to be dead for? Yeah. I mean, that's really what it's saying, right? How long do you want to be dead for?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to talk a little bit as we're kind of closing up here, who you are, what you do, and who should be reaching out to you. Who do you help?
Yeah. Well, I love to work with women who want to grow themselves so that they can grow a business or they can pursue a dream or they can pursue a goal, something that's like deep in their heart. Because I very strongly believe, and one of my core beliefs is that every single person has significance, that every single person has gifts, talents, dreams that are meant to impact the world. That's why you're here. You're not here just to exist. You're not here just to breathe and take in the air, but you're here to make a difference. And that could be it could be in your family, it could be in your community, but that you're here to make a difference. But a lot of women don't have the confidence to pursue those little tiny like dreams and goals and things that they want. And unfortunately, if you don't pursue that dream, then when you die, that dream dies with you and it never exists. The world never gets it. Right. And so it's not just your dream that dies. It's like the impact you would have had on everybody else that dies with you. So what I love is I have a community called Hey Girl, You Can, and it's for women who want to grow themselves and then also be able to grow a business or pursue these things. So that's one way that people can work with me. I also have like a VIP intensive day for people which basically is, I look at the 28 years of all the stuff that I ever did, the conferences, the training, the, mentorship, like all the stuff. And a lot of times I would go to things and I would learn something, but it didn't necessarily move the needle in my life. Do you know what I mean? Like I'd get inspired, I'd get excited, but nothing changed. So I went back and I said, what are all the things that really moved the needle? What are all the things that really changed me, that allowed me to change my life? And I took all of the best stuff and I put it into one VIP day, the stuff that really impacted me in a way that changed my life. So those are the two things. I only do two things, but those are the two.
Beautiful. I love that. And then for those that want to find out more about you, for those that want to follow you, website, social media, where's your favorite place to hang out?
Yeah. So obviously you have my website here and you can find out about the community and all of that on the website. And then anywhere on social media, you'll see me as Tara's Voice. You really won't see Tara Geraghty anywhere. You'll see Tara's Voice. And that was very deliberate because after my divorce, it took me a long time to find my voice. I stopped trusting my gut, my knowing, myself. It was almost like it's very dramatic, but it almost was like being brainwashed and then having to come out of that. And so there was really a season of like finding my voice again and finding comfortable that like I wasn't crazy. I knew like I could trust myself. So it's Tara's Voice everywhere on social.
Where do you hang out the most?
Probably Instagram, although I'm not a grammer. I'm trying to get better at Instagram. I'm not very aesthetic. I'm not very like good at a picture. I hang out a lot on Facebook, but yeah, wherever you are, you can find me there because I just cross promote everywhere. So whatever you see on Instagram is probably going to be on Facebook, probably going to be on LinkedIn.
Love it. Very cool. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Yes, I'm going to leave you with my favorite quote because this is what I always end with. And it's literally a giant sign in my office. It's what I stare at every day. It is like my prayer for you. I know that Sabrina's already doing this. So I see this in what she's doing and what she's creating. But I pray this for you. It says, it's by Irma Bombach. And she says, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I would hope that I would not have a single bit of talent left. And I could say, I used everything you gave me. That is what I try for me. I want to use everything, that I take nothing with me to my grave. I see that in what you're doing, Sabrina. You're using all your talents and all the things that you've been through to change women's lives so they can shorten that place. I love the idea that when you fall down, now you're stronger and you come back. And so that's my prayer for you, that you use the tips, gifts, and the talents and the things that you have, and you don't take those with you to the grave. Use all of it up, every little bit.
I love that. Well, this was great. Thank you so much for being here. For those that are listening live or on the replay, her website is taragonline.com. It is in a clickable link in the description below. She predominantly hangs out on Instagram and Facebook, so make sure you check her out and follow her up. I am on her website right now, and it looks like she does have the connect with me at the very bottom, so easily can click those links to be able to follow her. To my dedicated listeners that are still here following, thank you so much for being here until the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. And once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. I invite you to join our amazing community for women business owners, Her Nation Global, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way by having conversations just like this one. Until next time, do something awesome today.